Hello and welcome to the Ignorance Project. Today we are really excited about talking to Stacey-Ann Taylor, Esquire. All right, so Stacey, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Stacey Ann Young, actually. I'm married, recently married about 18 months ago, but professionally I go by Stacey-Ann Taylor. I am a
Congratulations.
trademark attorney. That is my specialty.
Hmm.
Probably over 99% of the legal work that I perform for my clients is trademark registration.
Hmm.
So I am truly a trademark attorney. I don't just do trademarks on the side. I have a solo trademark practice here in Metro Atlanta, where I have been living for, wow, like the past 11 years. I've lived in a lot of places. I've
Yeah,
had a very interesting career, which I'm sure we'll talk about soon.
absolutely. Well, thanks for that introduction. And I want to say I discovered you, actually, my assistant discovered you, and you should really check out this page. And I became like obsessed with you so much so that I reached out. But I
Well,
discovered you on Threads, and I think it's
yes,
right. Yeah, Threads. So it's so cool
yes.
how social media is really turning into, or has turned into, really this medium where we can connect with people. Because how else would I have known that you
Yes,
existed and known about the work that you did? So I
absolutely.
want to start with that. What made you start really promoting yourself on social media?
So I started this firm, my solo practice, in
Mhm.
July of 2020. But I did not take, and at the time I did what everyone else does when they start a business, right? I got a website, I secured social media accounts, fine. But I didn't really take it that seriously until May of 2022. So basically 2 years went by. Obviously, the worst of the pandemic at that point had the pandemic had kind of peaked at that point, and the
Yeah.
worst of it was over. So I was just like, I need to be doing more to put my name out there and so on and so forth. So I started recording at that time. I was recording a video a day, Monday through Friday,
Yeah.
just on Instagram. And over time, like about 6 or 7 months later, I added TikTok as well.
Mhm.
I actually only recently started taking Thread seriously, which is back in July of 2024.
Mhm.
So it hasn't even been that long that I've been super active on Thread. So what made me kind of just start putting myself out there was really, it was just kind of in response to knowing that I had to do more to market my firm.
Right.
And yeah, that's how we got here. I started with one video a day, and I started going viral. And it took me probably about 4 or 5 months to get my
Yeah.
first viral video.
Yeah.
And yeah, the rest is history.
Look at you. That's good advice, though. Video a day. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want us to go way back now.
Mhm.
Um, really back to like you are young, right? What do you in your youth, I should say, in your youth.
Yes.
Not that you're not still young. When
I'm
you
not
were a
that young.
kid, what did you envision yourself doing at this point in your life?
So I knew I would be an attorney around age 11.
Oh.
Yeah, I've known a long time. So just for the record, I'm 47.
Hmm.
And I knew I would be an attorney from a very, very young age. It's just something that I just understood. I can't really explain it to you. I have a couple of attorneys in my family, but I'm not even so sure that that's the strongest influence. Probably the strongest influence for probably for a lot of us who are in this age group and are Black women is actually Claire Huxtable on the Cosby Show.
Stop. Yes.
Yeah, and so Felicia Rashad's character, obviously, I think that was probably a significant. I don't think I know. She was a
Yeah.
significant influence in terms of shaping the way that I saw Black women professionally and from a young age, and I just basically stuck with it.
Mm.
So here we are.
Yeah.
I didn't
Look
know I
at
was going to be a trademark attorney. I will say that this is I've practiced law in different areas, so
it.
this is my latest incarnation. But I've been a licensed attorney now for 20 years, over 20 years.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
been a while. Yeah.
Wow. So we're gonna get to this point.
Hmm.
But I would be remiss if I didn't say childhood me also thought I was going to be Claire Huxtable. She had a huge
Yes.
influence. I thought at this point in my life I would have had 5 kids
Okay.
and been practicing law, so much so that I started by saying I was minoring in pre-law when I started
Okay.
college. I really
Yes.
was like, I'm gonna do this, and then I saw all of the things you have to memorize, and I'm like, I don't know that I
Yes.
am going to do this.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
cool. Okay. So I'm gonna go a little further down because it sounds
Mhm.
like you definitely knew law was going to be in your life. So
Yep.
when you started school, when you started college, really, is that what you majored in? Was it pre-law?
I was a political science major.
Oh.
Many of my fellow attorneys are political science majors or pre-law majors.
Mhm.
So that yeah, that's very common. I was a political science major at Emory University right here in Atlanta, even though I'm not from Metro Atlanta. I'm not from Atlanta.
Okay.
But I came down here to go to school. I studied political science. I got my degree in it, and
Mhm.
then I went on to law school.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, I love that it was a very straightforward path.
Hmm. It
Yeah.
was.
Okay. And I know your background is Jamaican, right?
Yes. I was born in Jamaica. That's where my family is from. Yes.
Okay, my
Yes.
family's Jamaican too. What part?
Oh, my mother is from Anata Bay in St.
Mhm.
Mary, and my father's from Kingston. He's from
Okay.
Waterhouse, where Beanie Man is from.
Oh, cool, cool, very cool.
Yes.
I just had some bun and cheese before we started this. I'm starting.
Okay, Easter Bun. Yes, it's almost that time.
It's almost that time.
Yes.
Okay, so you went ahead, you went to law school, you
Hmm.
finished. Did you go straight into working? Did you take time off? What was that like?
I went straight to law school, and actually, I have to say for anyone listening or watching this podcast, if I could change anything about my experience, I think I would have taken time off.
Mhm.
It just was what it was. But I went right from undergrad to law school. I went from Emory, then to Duke Law. I was 22 years old when I started law school, 3 months after graduation. So I went right into it. I had a very interesting law school experience because I had kept having to have eye surgeries because my retina kept detaching in one of my
Oh,
eyes.
oh.
So I had a very challenging, especially the first first 3 semesters of law school were
Mhm.
very challenging just because I
Mhm.
was dealing with eye issues and having to have multiple significant surgeries. So,
Mhm.
but it is what it is. Maybe it was just that's the way that it was meant to be.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I went right to law school, and so I was done. I was done a month before my 25th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah,
So then
yeah.
once you started practicing, because you said you practiced in different areas of law, what was your first area?
So my first area was actually doing policy work
Mhm.
for the city of Baltimore.
Mhm.
I actually didn't go right into practicing law. I really only did that for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I eventually found my way into practicing law, doing really just lobbying and government related work. I
Really?
eventually found my way to working for a trade association.
Mhm.
At that time, they were in right in the core, kind of in the core of downtown DC. I
Mhm.
think they've since moved a little bit further away near Union Station. But in any event, I spent several years working there. And so I was actually a lobbyist and an attorney and a
Wow.
practicing attorney. And so I'm licensed in Georgia, here in Georgia, but also licensed in DC. I eventually came back here
Mhm.
after going to undergrad here. I eventually made my way back here. There's a lot to my story, but I eventually found my way back here after working in house for a company that sold building products. They were privately owned at the time. Now they're owned by a huge publicly traded company.
Okay.
But I have done all kinds of so really and truly the most of my career up until the last 4.5, almost 5 years, actually I was an environmental attorney. And certainly in the years that preceded me opening this solo practice, I was an environmental regulatory attorney. So
Mhm.
trademark law is also essentially regulatory in nature because it's a government issued document. It's a government issued form of protecting your intellectual property. So people ask me very often, how did I go from practicing environmental law, dealing with chemicals in consumer products and things like that, to and commercial products, to now practicing in this area, handling branding and trademarks and stuff. But I worked for a large company that was worth $500 million at the time,
Mhm.
and we had, I don't know, 12 or 1,300 individual SKUs that were based on different product sizes. So I'm used to branding, marketing. I had to work with marketing every single day because it was my job to understand the regulations that impacted our products.
And before
And
you
what
keep
the
going, I think I
Yes.
know, but what is a SKU?
Oh, so a SKU is just essentially, it's the barcode on the back. It's the
Right.
numbers associated with the barcode. So just thank you for asking me. We basically had 12 or 1,300 individual products. Now, some of those were the same product in different sizes. The barcodes are on your products. Like if you pick up a bottle of Listerine, the size that's smaller is going to have a different barcode from the size that's larger. This is how you track purchases when you go to make them at the cash
Mhm.
register, when you scan.
Very interesting. It makes sense
So
though. It makes a lot of sense.
yes.
But okay.
So that's all that means. And basically, I was working with marketing every single day. And so this my interest, I like branding, I like marketing. I like even now when I'm watching TV, I like seeing how people sell their product or
Right.
service. It's very, very interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for explaining that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds to me, let me know if I'm wrong, like you definitely have maybe even a continued interest in the
Mhm.
environment and regulatory
Mhm.
things and maybe
Mhm.
how people are impacted by changes that are made, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, just being in that area for so long, and mine was like a very niche area of environmental law, which
Mm.
really is the regulation of consume of chemicals in consumer and commercial products.
Right.
I understand, like if I look at the back of a bleach bottle, I understand why the warnings, like where the warnings come from, what federal regulations and laws require those warnings. It's such a nerdy niche area. There are probably only, I would guess that there are probably less than 1,000 attorneys in the country who do this kind of work, who did that,
Right.
who do the kind of work that I used to do.
Right. I love
Um,
that though,
yeah.
because I think my background is project management.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I loved, like absolutely loved about being a project manager is
Yes.
you really touch so many things. Ever since I started in project management, I have a new appreciation for literally everything I see because I understand that even like the design of a notebook like this
Yep.
is a different department than the person making it, than the person doing
Yes.
like the individual,
Then
piece
the
of
person
paper.
marketing it. Yes. Then the person marketing it. That's right.
Yeah. So I love
Yes.
that you kind of broke that down because it's another piece that we don't even consider when we pick
Mhm.
up a product. So much work goes
Yes.
into every little thing that you see.
You definitely understand exactly what I'm talking about
Yeah.
because yes, it's a lot of people. There are a lot of people involved.
Yeah.
Yes,
So many
to
different.
bring your product to market and sell it to you.
Yeah. I
Yes.
think it's made me a little bit more kind with critiquing certain things because I'm like, you
Mhm.
know what? I might not necessarily like this, but I know that someone worked really hard. A lot of people worked
Yes.
really hard to get this one thing done.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So then how did you go from that to trademark law?
Okay, so the long and short of it is in May of 2019, my position was eliminated. And I actually had a really amazing position that allowed me to work from home. I was working from home full time in another state. I mean, my company was based in California, and my first 2 years in the business, I was there. And then they allowed me to move across the country back to Atlanta because I just like living here
What?
better.
That's
Yeah, I was living in
amazing.
downtown LA, and that was cool, but it wasn't for me long term. So they allowed me to move. They valued me at the time so much they allowed me to move back here. And for the next 5 years after that, so for 7 years total, 2 years in Cali, 5 years here in Atlanta,
Right.
they allowed me to work from home. And but my position, I got a new boss,
Mm,
and my position was eliminated, and that's fine. And they gave me a severance package, and I'm an attorney, obviously, so I was not. It was to be very frank, it was a good severance package, but
right.
I knew I could get a better one, so I renegotiated it, and I got a much better one, and
You
it
can
was
do
good to be.
that?
Oh, you can read. You can negotiate severance packages. They don't
Okay.
want to tell you that, but yes. But I got a good package to begin with, and then they gave me a great package,
Mm,
and so that allowed me to have a career coach. In addition to more severance pay, I got a
right.
career coach for like 6 or 8 months, and she was the one who told me after doing an assessment.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, Stacey, I think you'd be really good at running your own business. I think you should try that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, well, I kind of thought about starting my own firm.
Right.
And I was like, I thought about starting my own business firm. So when I first started this firm, I was doing business for the first 6 or 8 months, just like contract review, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then after about 6 or 8 months, I was like, I'm going to add trademarks to
Mm-hmm.
this because I used to work with the marketing team and deal with trademarks and marketing and branding and stuff like that. I was like, I'm going to add trademarks. And then after I added trademarks, slowly over time, probably about 18 months after I first started this practice, I just exclusively did trademarks.
Really?
Yeah, I went from doing and if one of my clients asked me like, "Hey, will you review this contract for me? Can I hire you to review this contract, or can I hire you to help me sell my business or whatever?" I'll do it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I will do that for existing clients or former clients. I won't do it for just someone finding me for the first time. So
Right.
what I really do, 99% of my work truly is trademark registration.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Got
Mhm.
it. What is it about trademark registration that draws you specifically? Like, what is
Um,
it that you love?
I really love. So I went from working for at the time, a privately owned company worth $500 million
Mm.
with a fairly good amount of resources at their disposal, right? When you're making that kind of money, um, to mostly working for, smaller businesses. I have clients that are literally making, $25,000, $30,000 a year to
Right.
a few million a year.
Right.
And so it's a wide range. I get to see the impact when I send someone their trademark
Mm.
registration certificate. They are so excited and so proud.
Yeah.
And when I was working at the company I was working for, like, getting a trademark is not registered is not a big deal. Like, they have in-house attorneys to do, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's not the same level of impact. I can actually see
Hmm.
the impact of my work. And, I follow my clients if they, if I'm aware of what their social media is. Many of my clients, by the way, do not follow me on social media. They just found me on social media or got a referral from somebody else, and they just, popped in, checked on me, checked me out, hired me, and that's it. But if I'm aware of their accounts, I'll follow them and I'll see what they're doing. And
Hmm.
it's a very proud thing for me as well to know that I had a tiny, tiny part in contributing to someone protecting their intellectual property, which is the
Right.
foundation of your intellectual property is the foundation of your business.
Hmm.
And this is especially true if you are in a service-based business,
Hmm.
because the intellectual property is what's coming out of your head. You don't have a physical, tangible product to sell.
Hmm.
You're a coach and you're selling a coaching framework to, how to, continue to be healthy and vibrant in your
Right.
50s, right? That's coming out of your head. There's
Right.
no physical product.
Hmm.
So that it gives me a sense of pride. And I just really love being able to, and I have some really cool clients. Like, I have great client
Hmm.
relationships because I have great clients. So
I love
yeah.
that. Okay,
Yeah.
so for someone watching this, at
Mhm.
what point on their, I don't know, business journey,
Mhm.
educational journey where they're educating people, at
Yes.
what point should they say, you know what, I probably want to look into getting a trademark?
Well, I'm going to be very frank with you. It really depends. So it's okay to file a trademark application before or after you launch a business. Sooner
Okay.
is always better with trademark registration, and trademarks are essentially given on a first come first serve basis, unless there is some other party out there who can prove that they were using it first. So it
Right.
is the doctrine of first use. However, um, it gets a little bit more complicated. Generally speaking, the first applicant to file their trademark is going to be the first person or brand to register the trademark. But again, if someone is out there that can prove
Hmm.
that were using that same or similar trademark in the same industry first, they will be able to register that trademark instead. But it's very, very complicated. So always sooner is better. So
Right.
I would encourage you to look at your resources as a brand owner, as a business owner. This is just one of the 50 million things that you're going to have on your plate. If you are a first time business owner, I will note that many of my trademark clients are actually established brands. They've been
Ah,
around for at least 3, 4 years.
right.
Some of them just tried to, just wanted to build the business up a little bit, get it financially stable before they take on registering a trademark, and that's fine. It will be up to you. Again, sooner is always better. But if you're a first time business owner, I say all this to say, it may be best for you to figure out if you have something that is worth buying. If you launch your brand and you
Mhm.
give it 3 months, give it 6 months, see what the reception is, see
Mhm.
whether people are, excitedly wanting to work with you if you're a service provider, or excitedly purchasing your product if your product is moving quickly. If you see a lot of activity, a lot of actual purchases being made, I would encourage you to I strongly encourage you to file the trademark application then.
Okay.
If you're a first time business owner, if you're a seasoned business owner and you've owned a business before,
Mhm.
you'll know when the right time is to file the trademark application.
Okay.
That's the way that I look at it. Now, there will be a lot of other trademark attorneys who would not give you that advice. They'll say, always file before you launch your business, launch your brand. But again, if you've never run a business before,
Mhm.
you might want to see if somebody actually wants to buy what you're selling. I mean,
That makes
my
sense.
trademark registration package is $2,400. I'm
Hmm.
not saying that you have to use my services, but I'm just putting that out there so you know it's an investment.
It
And so
is.
you need
Yeah.
to. This is something that you need to be serious about. it doesn't make sense for you to file a trademark application and you're not even going to be in business in a year because it turns out you don't like running a business that much. Right? So these are some of the things to consider.
That makes so much sense. So let me ask you this, because I will put myself out there, right? Where I was under the impression before coming across your page that all you really needed to do was like form an LLC or something.
No.
Why is that not the case? What's the difference between an LLC and
Sure. So an LLC is a form of a business entity that is you register your LLC with the Secretary of State. It's just one form of a legal business entity. There are also corporations. There are also partnerships. There's a few permutations of business entities for anyone who's listening and just wants to know what the difference is. So the purpose of creating a legal business entity such as an LLC or a corporation is to separate your business from you as an individual. Your LLC could really be named like XYZ123 LLC, and you can operate different brands under it.
Right.
And so your LLC name does not have to match your trademark name. So remember, the LLC is to create a separate entity from you as an individual.
Okay.
The trademark registration is to protect whatever the brand name or logo or slogan is, like that. So it's two completely separate purposes. People say, "Oh, I get an LLC, and that's valid in my state." Okay, that's fair. Your LLC, generally speaking, you're not going to have the exact same LLC, obviously registered in the same state. That's fair. But what about other states? Most of you are business owners who sell things to people across state lines. Even brick and mortar stores, like I have a barbecue joint and I sell my sauces. I'm in Georgia and I sell my sauces to people in California online because they dropped by my barbecue restaurant when they were visiting a relative in Atlanta and they loved it so much. Now they're ordering my sauces online in California. And so most businesses today, not all, but the majority, have some sort of online component. And your LLC, okay, you have the LLC name, you create a separate entity in your state. In this case, I'm here in Georgia, but that doesn't do anything for you for all the other 49 states that you don't live in. So that's the purpose of a trademark. A trademark is registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. It is a federal trademark that covers the entire United States, all 50 states, and the U.S. territories like Guam and Virgin Islands, etc.
Oh, so let me ask you this. So once you have a trademark and it's approved, what if someone tries to file your name as an LLC?
Well, that's a great question. You should be monitoring. Once you register your trademark, it takes about 13 months to complete trademark registration right now. That's down from 18 months for registration. So 13 months is a significant improvement in only about a year. They got that number down. If someone filed, you should be monitoring your trademark. You can do that with a Google alert for the name. You can do that you can pay your attorney. Most trademark attorneys offer some sort of monitoring service for a few $100s. Again, you really could do this with a Google alert, but but if you want to pay, that's fine. It's your prerogative. You should just be generally, just occasionally, maybe every couple of months, just doing Google searches to see what comes up when you put in that name. And remember that trademarks are registered in classes. I'm sure we'll get into that later. So if I have a barbecue restaurant, let's call it Unicorn Barbecue. We're just doing it. We'll just use this as the example for this podcast. Let's call it Unicorn Barbecue.
Okay.
That's cool. If somebody, remember, your trademark protects you in your name in your trademark class. The classes are divided by various products and various services. So if I have Unicorn Barbecue, that's like restaurant services. If somebody, for whatever reason, wants to call their, let's just say, law firm, Unicorn Law Firm,
Right.
you cannot go after them for trademark infringement because law firms are not relevant. It's not related to restaurant services.
Right.
Remember, that's very important for your listenership and viewership to know. You're going to get your trademark protected, but it's going to basically be within your industry. And it's not just for your name exactly as spelled. It's for similar names even. It's not even just for the name exactly as you wrote it on your application. The protection extends to similar names in your industry that sell the same thing. Right.
Very interesting. Okay. Thank you. So let's talk about the different classes because something else I was not aware of. So what are the different classes? Let's start there.
Okay, so there are 45 trademark classes. Trademarks, as I mentioned, are registered in classes. Of the 45 classes, classes 1 through 34 are for various products. For example, if I had a clothing brand, I would register it in class number 25 because class number 25 is the clothing class. It's a product class, it's the clothing class. So 1 through 34, various products. Classes 35 through 45 are for various services. For example, if I had a restaurant, Unicorn Barbecue, that trademark would be registered in class number 43 because class number 43 is the class for restaurant services. It includes restaurants and bars and catering, that kind of thing, and hotels. That's in that class as well. So that's how trademarks are registered. You can pay to register in as many relevant classes as you wish. Remember, each additional class is an additional fee.
Right.
For many small businesses, I would encourage you to just start with the name. Trademark your brand name because the brand name is the most important branding element because that's how most consumers will recognize your brand, right? Mm-hmm. Most consumers will recognize your brand before your brand name before your logo. Mm-hmm. So start with your name in the most relevant class. Again, Unicorn Barbecue would be the restaurant services class.
Right. Mm-hmm. I'm still shook that like a logo is a completely separate class.
It is. So this is the thing. There is no law or regulation that says that you can't put multiple trademarks on one application. You can do that, but you will not get full trademark protection because each branding element is truly a separate trademark. Right. So let's say that you put your name and your logo on one application, but combine them, and that's the only trademark you have. That means the USPTO recognizes that as your trademark. So that means that you always have to use that trademark. The name and the logo always have to appear together on your marketing materials, on your branding, on everything for you to get full trademark protection. If you start using them separately all the time, a competitor, someone else who's interested in the same or similar name can challenge you and say, this is not the trademark. The trademark you registered was the name and the logo together. Mm-hmm. So to get around this issue of someone, and this believe it or not, this actually has happened. There is legal precedent for this because some of these companies are extremely competitive. There is precedent for this. To get around this, the proper way to register is to file an application and register each one separately. Mm-hmm. You don't have to file all, the name, the logo, the tagline all at once because that can get very expensive very quickly. Start with the name, build up your trademark portfolio over time. Maybe a couple years, a few years later, add the logo. Mm-hmm. A few years later, add the tagline. Like you're building your trademark portfolio up over many years. Remember, companies like Nike and Amazon and so forth, their trademark portfolios are always being built, right? Mm-hmm. They're always filing new trademarks. They're always renewing think like that. Don't feel like this is a one-time thing. If your business grows, your intellectual property, your portfolio should also be growing over time, over years.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for that breakdown.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. What advice would you give someone watching right now that says that might be a field I'm interested in getting into?
Sure. So I would say that trademark law is very detail. It's a very detail-oriented area of the law. I mean, obviously, being an attorney, being in the legal profession, it's all detail orientation. But this is really into like the weeds. Like this is once you start looking at trademark applications, you keep going down different rabbit holes. Like I am in the minutia. If I am interested in why this application couldn't be registered, sometimes it sends me to like 7 other trademark applications. Like it's just, you're in the weeds a lot. So you need to make sure that you're comfortable with the minutia, because remember, whatever is on that trademark application is what's getting registered. So there's no room for errors. Mm-hmm. You must be very precise. Right. Very, very precise. So if you have that kind of mind where dealing with the minutia and being in the weeds all the time is something that excites you, this is basically like nerd stuff. This is trademark law is for the people who were probably locked away in the library every summer as kids, just like reading books. Because that's what this is. It's really that level. You definitely have to have an interest in branding and marketing and what someone is trying to communicate with a trademark. Like, is it some clever double entendre, which is one of the USPTO's favorite types of trademarks to register? Right. A name that's a double entendre. That's the kind of work that it is. I would say this isn't considered like necessarily a sexy area of the law, although more and more we hear about trademark disputes, like the woman who had the very demure, very mindful. but very mindful. Yes, the woman on TikTok who had that whole tag. It's really a tagline. That whole tagline that she still uses, I believe, in her
Mhm.
TikTok videos, and how someone filed the application before she did. And the reality is, you can't get a trademark registered until you prove that you have been using it. So people do this all the time. They think that
Okay.
like putting in an application first is going to do something, but if you're not
Mhm.
using it, and people can, millions and millions of people across the world can prove that somebody else was using it before
Right.
you. That's
That's
trademarks
so
are
interesting.
interesting.
So you have
Yeah.
to have like a history of using that before you can get it approved.
So you have to at least be able to show that it's called a specimen of use. It's called a trademark specimen of use. A trademark cannot be registered. You can file an application before launching a business.
Hmm.
I do this for clients every day. You can
Hmm.
file a trademark application before or after launching a business.
Hmm.
If you file it after, you have to include what's called the specimen of use, which could be something as simple as, if you own a restaurant, taking a screenshot. I take a screenshot of your restaurant website with your menu, where it's very clear that you're offering different food products,
Right.
for sale. That's if you already have the unicorn barbecue up and running. If
Hmm.
I'm about to launch unicorn barbecue and I have not opened the restaurant yet or offered any catering services, I can go ahead and file a trademark application. There's two different types of trademark applications. One is for current use, one
Hmm.
is for future use. So I would file a future use, or it's also called an intent to use application,
Okay.
or an intent to use trademark application, knowing that I would open this restaurant, within the next 18 months, 2 years. That's fine. I can go through the entire process. Everything is fine. But before they will give me, the USPTO will grant me the registration, the last step is I will have to submit the specimen of use, because I didn't file a current use application where I had to submit the specimen of use at the same time. Filing an intent to use application gives me more time. So
Got it.
before they'll register my trademark, I have to now take a picture. I got to have my website or something up and running.
Hmm.
If I don't have a website, that's fine. If I have the restaurant menu and I have the brick and mortar, I can take a picture of the menu. And there are different ways to provide a specimen of use. But yes, that's how it works. The USPTO will not grant trademark registration
Hmm.
until you show that you are at least attempting to sell the product or service.
Okay.
And
Okay.
if it's not a for-profit business, let's say you have a nonprofit and you offer various educational services for people who are survivors of domestic violence. You
Hmm.
offer career educational services, things of that nature. That's fine. You're obviously not doing it for profit, so you're not selling anything. But
Yeah.
I've gotta have, a screenshot of your website, of your curriculum that you're offering to these
Hmm.
survivors. That's how trademark registration works. There has to be proof. Otherwise, that's called trademark squatting. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Trademarks. Okay, squatting.
Yes.
Trademark
Yes.
squatting. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, we've learned a lot today. Thank you.
Yes.
And shout out to Felicia Rashad, aka
Yes.
Clear Huxtable, for
Yes.
really showing Black girls that they could be anything.
Yes.
Also, shout out to her for showing that there's more than criminal law. Because
Yes.
until then, me watching SVU, I didn't fully grasp that. I thought, oh, this is what you would do as a lawyer. So it was cool
Yep.
to see a Black woman doing something completely outside of what a lot of people consider the norm for law.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So before we end, I do have a rapid round of very random questions, and I just want you to tell me the first thing that pops into your mind.
Okay.
What's a book that you think everybody should read?
The autobiography of Malcolm X by Alex Haley.
How are we not best friends? Completely agree. That book changed my life. Okay.
Yes, mine
What's
as
a
well.
song? Yeah. What's a song everyone should listen to?
Love is Blind by Eve.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Embarrassed to say I've not heard it, but I'm going to after this.
Yes. Yes. By the rapper Eve. That's a
Okay.
very, very powerful song.
Okay. What's
Yeah.
the best advice you've ever received?
Ooh, the best advice probably from my dad. My dad had a very interesting background growing up in Jamaica. And because of it, he and my mom, so I'm the older of two girls, of two women now. And my sister is 6 years younger than me. And because of the circumstance of how my father grew up with his parents and his family, he thought it was really, really important for women to be educated. He's like, when we were young, he's like, you guys are young Black women. You'll grow up to be young Black girls. You'll grow up to be Black women,
Right.
and the world will treat you differently. First, because you are a woman,
Mm-hmm.
or because you're Black, either one.
Mm-hmm.
First, because you're a woman, then because you're Black, or the reverse, depending on the person you're interacting with. But, basically, he told us at a very, I mean, I'm talking about young. I was probably still in elementary school when he first
Right.
had this conversation with me, and then had it with my sister later. But my dad was like, the world is going to see you differently, and the world is going to have different expectations from you. So you need to be prepared for that. And I really feel like because of that, and because of his experiences, he and my mom really prepared us very, very well. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. Wow. Okay. And my last question, what's a place that everybody should visit?
Oh, I love Costa Rica. I also love Kenya. But I love Costa Rica has to be one of the most peaceful and serene places I have ever been. It's just the vibes.
Right.
It's magical. It's
Right.
magical.
This
Yeah.
is insane.
Yeah.
My grandfather was born in Costa Rica.
Huh?
Still
Ah,
Jamaican, but born in Costa Rica.
yes.
You know, there are a lot
Uh-huh.
of Jamaicans there. So
Yes.
I never met him. He passed away when my mom was young. But
Mhm.
I ended up in Limon, not realizing I was going
Oh,
where he was born, and it was one of the
yeah.
best experiences in life.
Yeah.
So love Costa Rica, but
Yes.
also Kenya. I went
Yes.
there a couple years ago for my birthday. Went on a safari.
Oh, yes. I went on safari at Masai Mara. Yeah, outside of
Yes,
Nairobi. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think that there's anything that makes you feel or realize how small you are in the world,
Yes.
like being on a safari.
Oh, absolutely. I will also say that when I went to Kenya, what I find very interesting is when I got off the plane and got little like touched soil.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that where we're from is encoded in our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
I have no proof of this, but there's something about being in Africa that it just feel like everything about like my body, everything about my mind,
Yeah.
something different happens.
It's a
Um,
spiritual experience.
it is. I also feel that way when I go home to Jamaica because
Yeah.
that's where I was born. And so I really believe that where we're from, all the places that we've been, like significant place, like where we're born, I think that's encoded in our DNA. So
Mhm.
yeah, Kenya is a magic. Even though I'm not, my family, my ancestors are probably not from East Africa, obviously, probably from West Africa, Sierra Leone, Ghana, and places like that. Just being in Africa,
Mhm.
there's something magical, something very, very special
Oh
about
yeah.
being there.
Highly
Yeah.
recommend. I think it should be mandatory for every Black person
Yes.
that
Yes.
has ended up on this side of the earth to go
Yes.
back because it's an experience you never ever forget.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow, Stacey, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. For my listeners, my watchers, thanks so much for listening. Thanks for watching, and I hope you leave enlightened.